Welcome along, Explorer. It's that time of the week on planet Earth where we quickly leave planet Earth and we explore the amazing universe that's abundant and all around us. My name's Dan. Welcome to the Fun Kids Science Weekly. This week, we'll head to the far reaches of the solar system and find out if Uranus is so far from the sun, can it be hot or is it cold? What's going on? We'll explore the mysteries of temperatures through the galaxy.
We think something happened a long, long time ago, a big collision that, to put it in simple terms, basically stole Uranus's heat.
Also, you can hear about a reptile that looks just like a lizard. No one can really figure that out. It's coming up, and we'll discover all about the science behind invasion biology.
It's about the creatures we share our planet with. And we all do or should love animals, plants, and other strange and wonderful forms of life. I think the best thing about invasion biology is that it mixes biology with human history and the quirks of our own human nature.
That's on the way in a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. Let's start with your science in the news then. SpaceX has pulled off a successful test flight of its brand new Starship rocket. It's the world's largest and most powerful rocket, and it flew for an hour over in the United States last week. It's very important because a few of its recent tests have ended in flames and failure. At times, part of its engine appeared to explode. The flaps on the side caught fire, but crucially, all of its 33 engines fired up and worked, and it managed to land back in the ocean more or less in one piece. That's really important because one day this rocket, it's meant to be taking people to the moon and even Mars, and NASA, the American Space Agency, are really relying on SpaceX being able to get them rockets that actually work, so that's a brilliant sign. Also, researchers in Asia have found the fossilized remains of a crocodile-looking creature from the Jurassic era in India. The fossil is a phytosaur. It's almost 2 meters long, which is big. Experts say it's likely to be more than 2 million years old. The phytosaur was an animal that lived on river and land. It's a long, low lizard, and it's evolved into the crocs that we know now. It's a rare specimen as well, and this is really important because the fossil being there means that maybe other fossils could be in the ground nearby, and we're constantly learning about brilliant new amazing dinosaurs that once existed, ones we'd never heard of before. So to find this, it's a brilliant sign. And in our final story this week, the first baby dormice have been born at a park in the UK as part of a project to boost the population of the tiny mammals. More than 20 were released in Bragate Park a few weeks ago. Now 11 babies have been found at a secret location there. We can find out more. Ian White is the Dormouse Officer for the People's Trust for Endangered Species. Ian, thank you for joining us. Tell us more about a dormouse.
Well, dormice are quite rare, rarely seen by people because they're a small arboreal rodent, which means that they live in the tree and shrub canopy when they're active. They also come out at night, so they're nocturnal. And in the summer months where they're active, as I say, they spend all the time in the tree and shrub canopy, feeding up there, having babies there. And then come winter, they come down to the ground and they build a nest at ground level, and they spend the winter hibernating. That's the way that they see the winter out.
You are from the People's Trust for Endangered Species. There's been a real effort to boost the numbers of dormice. Why is this a species that you are focusing on?
Because dormice are rare, we know their range has declined in Victorian times over 100 years ago. They used to be widespread throughout England and Wales, but over the last 100 years, the population's dropped or the range has contracted, so they're now pretty much in southern England and in Wales. So this is a species of conservation concern, which we're making an effort to try and reverse that.
They're rare. What are the threats to them as a species?
Three things, really. Because this is an animal that lives in woodlands and also in hedgerows, it's how we manage our woodlands. That's changed over the years. We used to manage our woodlands quite intensively. We now manage them a lot less so. And that doesn't help hazel dormice because they're in essence a species of scrub. So if you look around and think where are these well-connected areas of scrub that are an animal that lives in the tree and shrub canopy can use and move around in. It doesn't really exist much anymore within our woodlands. So that's one problem. The other is the isolation of woods and hedgerows in the wider landscape. And also climate changes seems to be starting to have an impact as well, in terms of we're seeing more mild winters, which doesn't help a hibernating animal. And we're also seeing wetter springs and wetter summers that actually can affect how well they breed.
So 11 babies have been found at a secret location in Bragate Park, which is in Leicestershire, which is good going. They've only been there, the dormice, for a month or so. What would you see it as a success? How many numbers are you looking at?
Dormice are a very difficult animal, or a very difficult species to kind of monitor and count. But we can get some indication. We'll have nest boxes up in the wood that the dormouse will use and come to, so we can keep an eye on how well the population is doing. But to be honest, yes, 11 babies this time of year is good news, because it used to be thought that actually dormice could only have one litter in a year, but with producing these early litters, it's possible that both the mother can go on to have a second litter, and also the young of year can breed as well. So seeing young dormice this early in the year can actually means we could get a bit of a bumper crop of young dormice in autumn, which would be great. There's also a potential downside as well, in terms of this has been a very hot summer, which has led to lots and lots of early fruit. Blackberries have been out, hazelnuts already been seen. So I just hope there's enough food around to keep them all well supplied up to in the autumn.
How much of a role do you and teams like you play when you've kind of released the dormice? Will you be going there? Will you be giving them more food if they need it? Or are they out there and it's up to nature now?
Kind of a bit of both, really. We try and give them the maximum amount of support we can. I must admit, we, People's Trust for Endangered Species, we organise the reintroduction, but we very much kind of leave it to local teams, because, to be honest, I'm starting to think about the one next year now, and it's very much trying to engage local teams to get them to take on the management of the dormice within their woodland. So we have talked about providing some additional food over autumn to try and get round, if there is a gap in food supply, the fact we might give supplementary feeding, because what we want is obviously to support that population as well as we can while they settle into their new home.
Well, let's wish them the best of luck. Ian White, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much to Ian White for coming on the show, telling us all about dormice. Well, it's time for questions then. If you have anything sciencey that you would love answered on the show, make sure you send it as a voice note for me, please. You can do that on the free Fun Kids app. You can do it at funkidslive.com. There's a big red record button. Click that and tell me what you fancy. First up this week, a question from Etta. Etta, thank you so much. I love getting your questions. They always really help me explore and learn something brand new. This one is, how do we digest large amounts of food? Large amounts of food. Our body has a system to break food down quite thoroughly. Like, we're really efficient at it. We get all the nutrients that we can. It's helped us become the humans that we are today. And it follows a very logical process. If you think from where your food goes in through your mouth and where it goes out, yeah, everything in between has a real great purpose. So it starts in your mouth. When you chew your food, you break it into smaller pieces. So when you've had a big meal, that really helps. And then your saliva in your mouth gets to work. There are enzymes in it, little protein molecules that start to break the food apart, trying to separate all those chemicals in it to smaller, singular bits so you can take what you need. Then it heads down into your stomach, which is a big stretchy bag. It can hold 1.5 litres of food and liquid quite comfortably, which is a lot. But if you've had a big meal, it can grow so much bigger when it's needed to. In your stomach is acid, and that kills bacteria. So, anything bad that's in there, well, that should get to work and end it all. And it breaks down the food even further. More enzymes are in there. They keep breaking it down. Your stomach squashes it. It squeezes the meal, churning that food into a sludgy liquid. That then moves into your small intestine. That's where the main digestion happens. You've got, again, more enzymes, more acids in there. They break down the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, so you can get all the nutrients, vitamins and minerals that you need. Then when that's done, what's left heads into the large intestine. which takes the final bits of electrolytes that it can before it flushes out whatever's left as poo and pee. That's how it works in your body. If you eat a lot of food, it just works harder and it takes longer. And this does have some impact, because if your stomach has to stretch more than usual, that's when you feel bloated, and you feel quite sluggish. Also, when your digestive system is working harder, it needs more blood, so it needs to draw blood from other parts of your body, which is why you start to feel tired, because there's a lot going on and not much else in your body to kind of keep you wide awake. Etta, that's a long one. That's how you digest large amounts of food. Etta, if that wasn't you, I'd have wondered if my dad sent that question in about having loads and loads and loads of food. Anyway, let's get on another question. This is sent in from Romy. What do you have, Romy?
Hello, Dan. My name's Romy, and my question is, if Uranus is so far from the sun, why is it hot?
Well, Romy, thank you very much for your question. Let's get this sorted out. Why is Uranus so hot? Is Uranus so hot? Let's find out. Ed Turner joins us from the National Space Centre. Ed, thank you so much for coming on. So, I guess let's open with it. Is Uranus actually hot?
So, no, Uranus is incredibly cold. It's very, very far away from the sun, so you would expect it to be cold. But actually, it's colder partially than we expect, really. We think something happened a long, long time ago, a big collision that, to put it in simple terms, basically stole Uranus's heat. So it's a little bit strange. It's actually colder than what we would expect.
Well, hang on. If something's stolen its heat, where on earth is the heat rushed off to?
So we when I say that, it's a very, very basic way of thinking it. We think that, so Uranus is incredibly cold, but what usually happens with all of our gassy outer planets is they are sort of radiating heat from their cores. Their cores are very, very hot. Whereas the outer atmosphere, basically the surface, if you're looking at the planet, we sort of call that the surface, the upper atmosphere, that bit will be very, very cold. But that isn't really happening on Uranus. So we think possibly this collision, along with the way that it tilted Uranus, sort of caused, possibly, this is all kind of speculation, we would have to go there and send something into orbit around the planet to get a really good idea of that. It basically adds this sort of reflective layer inside Uranus that is reflecting the heat from the core back towards the core rather than letting it radiate outwards. So it ends up being very, very cold.
Romy seems quite certain, though. Why is it warm when it's away from the sun? Why is Romy so steadfast on this?
So I think this might be a little bit of a miscommunication. There have been some news headlines coming out from, I think it's the James Webb Space Telescope, taking a look at Uranus and going, oh, it's actually warmer than we expect. This doesn't mean that it's warm, that it's hot. If I go into a warm bath, it's going to be a nice temperature. Maybe it's like 50 degrees would be like a really hot bath or something like that. When we say that Uranus is warm, it's still about minus 200 degrees. So it's still very, very, very cold. But we think it's just a little bit warmer than possibly we expected it to be. And it's all because of this really, really good space telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope.
So Uranus is a long way away from the sun. We are much closer. We're the third planet from the sun. If we were to go to the second or the first all the way to Mercury, would that be absolutely roasting hot because it's so close? Is that the way things work?
It's really weird with planetary temperatures because you go, okay, what's the hottest planet? It's got to be the closest planet, right? It's got to be Mercury. No, it's the second planet from the sun, Venus. And that's all because of atmospheres. So obviously here on Earth, we've got our lovely atmosphere that helps us to breathe. Venus has an incredibly thick atmosphere. It's about 92 times greater and the surface pressure on Venus than here on Earth. And not only that, it's made out of carbon dioxide almost entirely, which is a greenhouse gas, which basically acts like a big warm fuzzy blanket trapping heat on Venus, so it leads to soaring temperatures of over 450 degrees.
Now, while we're on the temperatures of planets and how they're affected by the sun, through the summer that we've had in the UK here recently, Ed, and it's been roasting hot, but as soon as the sun dips behind a cloud, you feel it. Now, this has made me a bit confused because we know that light takes 8 minutes to get from the sun. here on planet Earth. So why is the temperature changing so instantaneously as soon as the sun disappears for a moment?
Well, it's essentially all heat is constantly, we say radiated out. So basically it's constantly moving away from a hot object to a colder object, or from, say, hot air to cold air. So it's constantly moving along like this. So in the sun, you'll get really, really hot because you're being bombarded by all of that heat. But as soon as you move into the shade, you haven't suddenly become really cold. What's actually happened is all that heat is radiating away from your body to the cold area, and it makes you feel really, really cold. So it's not actually you suddenly changing temperature by, 10 degrees colder. It just feels like you're getting colder over time. And that feeling of getting cold is what makes you suddenly feel cold as soon as you're in the shade.
Well, there you go, Romy. Both of our questions have been answered there. Thank you so much from the National Space Centre, Ed Turner. Always great to hear from Ed Turner. Thank you so much, Ed, for coming on the show and answering some questions. You have not got many more chances to come and see this podcast live on stage. Fun Kids Science Weekly Live has been playing through the summer, and we've got a few more shows left this year. Live on stage. Loads of different towns and cities. We bring different parts of the podcast to life. We do Dangerous Dan with actual dangerous creatures. We have experts there. You can ask your questions to them. We travel through space. Well, you can get your hands on something from outer space. And we run through some amazing, slimy, quite explosive experiments that you can do at home. Everyone that has seen the shows so far has absolutely loved it. We've done selfies. We've done high fives. You have even been able to stare into the eyes of some of the most deadly beasts around. And we're going to do that a few more times. If you would like to get a ticket for Fun Kids Science Weekly Live, grab a grown-up, see where I'm playing near you at funkidslive.com. It's time for this week's Dangerous Dan, where we explore some of the most weird, unique, deadly and strange things in the universe. This time we're heading to New Zealand, to the only place where you can find a strange reptile that looks just like a lizard. The Tuatara looks exactly like a lizard, but they're a reptile. They grow to almost a metre long. They're a greenish-brown colour, with a spiky spine that runs down their back. They're always gazing upwards. They look a little bit like a dragon. They're so rare that they're called living fossils because they've not changed in years and years. Now, they're reptiles, but they're the only species in their own ancient order of reptiles. That order is Rhintrocephalia, which split from other reptiles about 200 million years ago. All the rest have kind of evolved. This looks like it's stayed the same. And, 200 million years, right? Old age is their thing. This creature can live to be over 100 years old. And they've got a strange thing. They've got two eyes, front and centre, like most creatures, but they've also got a weird, kind of a third eye. It's on the top of their head. It can't see, but it can sense light. And it helps it understand what time of day it is and what part of the year it is. Now check this out, right? They're not venomous, but they've got the most amazing, unique jaw. On the top of their mouth, they've got 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth. On the bottom, just one. It fits in the middle of the 2 at the top. So they overlap. They kind of sandwich it in the bottom, making a very jagged clamp. And with that, they're so dangerous to other creatures. They can shear through birds and insects and reptiles. They're one of a kind. They're so rare. They're found only in New Zealand, and that's why the Tuatara goes straight onto our Dangerous Dan list. It's time for Battle of the Sciences, where for once and for all, we will figure out the greatest science in the history of the universe. I always say that, but I'm really trying hard, I promise. What is the greatest science? Who deserves to be first in their field? Well, today we're learning all about invasion biology, which sounds strange, a little bit cruel. Let's find out more. Professor Tim Blackburn is from University College London and can tell us all about it. Tim, you have 1 minute to tell us why invasion biology is the best science around. That minute starts in 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, well, there's 4 reasons why I think that invasion biology is the best science. So first of all, it's about the creatures we share our planet with. And we all do or should love animals, plants, and other strange and wonderful forms of life. The second thing is that it deals with one of the basic processes that determines why different parts of the world have the animal and plant species that they do. And that's movement, or technically immigration. So immigration really matters for global biodiversity. The third thing is that invasion biology is really important because it's one of the main ways in which humanity is destroying the natural world. So we've changed how immigration works by our own movements and activities, and that's causing the loss of biodiversity the world over. And finally, I think the best thing about invasion biology is that it mixes biology with human history and the quirks of our own human nature.
Tim, thank you so much. That's your minute. So, humans have travelled all around the world, and historically countries have invaded other countries for as long as time has gone on. As a science, though, what you do, invasion biology, for how long have we been interested in how our movements might affect wildlife's movements?
So, as with much of biology, it's something that Darwin talked about, Charles Darwin, in the 19th century. But as a science, it's probably really started, I would say, in the 1950s. And since then, that's when we've really been sort of studying it in detail.
And what you do as an invasion biologist, what is it that you're looking at? Is it graphs? Is it actual creatures? Fossils, maybe? What do you study?
So probably spend most of my time in front of a computer, analysing data and, as you say, plotting graphs. What I'm really interested in, and what we're interested in as invasion biologists, is that, we have millions of species on the planet, and maybe 20,000 of them are what we call alien species, so species that have been taken to somewhere where they don't naturally occur, and potentially then they've spread in those areas. And so we're kind of interested in understanding why it's those 20,000 species out of the 1.5 million that we could have moved. So
in some of those species that you've looked at, probably not all 20,000, that would take quite a while, but I don't know, off the top of your head, can you tell us some interesting stories about maybe animals that have moved with humans and why they've done that and how they've ended up living now half a world away?
Yeah, so people have been doing this for thousands of years, and often they move species because they think they're going to be useful. So one of the more interesting stories is that in the 19th century, so in the Victorian era, people around the world set up what we call acclimatization societies. And so these were organizations that they specifically started to move species to new areas. So there was an acclimatization society in the UK. That's one reason why we have grey squirrels, for example, in the UK. So the grey squirrel is a North American species. It shouldn't be here, but acclimatization societies moved it here. And in other parts of the world, like sort of Australia and New Zealand, there are lots and lots of species that don't naturally occur in those countries that have been moved there because the colonists, typically people from Europe, thought it would be a really good idea to have some of the species from over here, over there, where they went.
It seems like the opposite is happening now, Tim. We're very focused on not moving animals around as much as we can because we don't want to upset ecosystems. I know if you try to go into Australia, they are very strict about what creatures you can take in. How useful is that thought, do you think, that we should keep different creatures to where they are so as not to disrupt ecosystems?
Yeah, I think it's really important. So as I said, sort of alien species are one of the main ways in which we're sort of destroying the natural world. So many of those species, when they go to new areas, they cause extinction in the animals and plants that live there naturally. So in Australia and New Zealand particularly, their biosecurity is really strict. So they really want to stop species coming in because, they know from experience that those species can drive their native species extinct or, really negatively affect their agriculture and their agricultural productivity. But the plain fact is that there's so much movement around the world. There's so many ships and planes and people going from one area to another and cargo going from one area to another, that even though now we know that alien species can be really bad, there have never been so many species moved as there are at the moment.
Tim, I always finish these in the same way. If I was to throw you forward years and years and years towards the end of your career as an invasion biologist, what's the one question that you would like answered? What do you want to discover in your field?
So I will say I am almost at the end of my career as an invasion biologist, so that's not very far in the future. But the one big question that we don't really understand is why it is that when some species get into a new environment, some of them do it really well and become super abundant and spread very widely, whereas others just, sit happily in small populations and don't really undergo that explosion. So I think that's the main question that we still need an answer to.
Well, is invasion biology near the top of our Battle of the Sciences leaderboard? It's for you to figure out, Professor Tim Blackburn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much to Tim for telling us all about invasion biology in Battle of the Sciences. We can learn more about that now, and we'll dive inside biology with our trusty genius explorer, Marina Ventura. She knows everything about how different creatures work, and this week she's getting up close inside a bird's nest, finding out how animal homes aren't that different from our own.
Marina Ventura Inside Biology with the Society of Biology. Hold on tight.
Hi again. Today we're finding out about animal homes. They generally have a few things in common with our homes. I'll show you what I mean. Animals need the same things as us. Somewhere safe to rest, to look after their babies, and to shelter in if the weather is bad. If we look up high in these trees, we can see a bird's favourite home, a nest. Let's climb up a little to see. Each species of bird has its own style of nest. This is a magpie's nest. It's a spiky mass of twigs, grass and leaves. Just like houses, nests come in all sorts of shapes though. Some are like platforms, others are like cups, and you'll even find some in the ground or in the nook of a building. But they all do the same job, to make a warm, dry place where the predators can't get to them. Let's go back down. There might be sleeping baby magpies in there. Another cool thing is that birds are great recyclers. Man-made materials like plastic, fabrics, and even paper are sometimes used in nest making. At the base of the tree, there's another cool animal home. It's a badger set. That's the name for their huge underground burrow. We can just see one of the holes that leads in. Did you know badgers are amazing at housework? Don't believe me? Check this out. This pile of leaves and moss outside the entrance to the set looks a bit like it's been made by a person, but actually it's the badger. He's brought his bedding outside to air, a bit like putting it on the washing line. Amazingly, sets also have a separate latrine, or an area that's used as a loo, so they have their own ensuite bathroom. I wonder if MapApp has any other fantastic facts about animal homes.
Of course, I'll get beavering away on a great fact.
The electronic essential for every explorer.
And it's all about beavers. They're mammals that live around water. Although beavers are pretty rare in Britain, they're responsible for some of the most amazing animal homes of all, dams. Beavers use trees, mud and stones to make a type of moat where they can use their swimming skills to evade any predators. They often work together to create huge, safe areas for their communities. And one of the biggest dams ever made is so enormous it can be seen from space. Astonishing as it sounds, the dam in Canada, which is a massive 3 kilometres long, was snapped by satellites taking pictures of the Earth. It's thought it has taken nearly 30 years for the beavers to build it.
Amazing! Time for us to go, but we'll see you next time. In the meantime, find out more at funkidslive.com/biology.
Marina Ventura Inside Biology with the Society of Biology. Hold on tight.
And that is it for this week's Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much to Marina. Also, thank you to Tim, to Ian, And to Ed for coming on the show, helping to answer your questions and tell us what's happening. If you have any science question that you want answered on the show, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on the free Fun Kids app and at funkidslive.com. You heard Marina Ventura. We've got loads more podcast series that you can hear in all those places too. You can get your tickets for Fun Kids Science Weekly live at funkidslive.com. Got an amazing couple of shows coming up for you. And Fun Kids, we are a children's radio station from the UK. Listen all around the country on our website, on that free Fun Kids app. And if you've got a smart speaker, wake it up and ask it to play Fun Kids.